Hello, guys. We're going to start with chapter 17. Mr. O asked the others to wait at Miss Cab's because he had to show me was a secret. We made our way across the road through the side gate to his greenhouse. You cannot believe my discovery, he said when we stepped inside his little oasis. There were rows and rows of plants, green, red, purple, and yellow peppers, and they all came in sizes. Some of the peppers were small as walnuts and others were as long as bananas. The place was warm and smelled fresh, like the desert after a summer rain. I didn't want to offend this guy, but I didn't see why I had to drop a mission, puke, to see his garden, especially when the future of the world was at the stake. Mr. O paced, rubbing his chin. I've done it, Zane. He pointed to a regular single red pepper, shaped like a bulging tomato. It clung to a tiny green plant. Its weight bent the stems. Meet la Muerta. You named a pepper after the Grim Reaper? The Guinness Book will put my name in writing now. He pushed back his straw hat and smiled. For a pepper? I didn't mean to sound unimpressed, but I didn't get what was so special about La Muerta. He tugged on his pant leg and smiled, still pacing. If in the book, Antonia, she will find me famous. She will go to dinner with me. We face mustn't been black because he clapped me on the shoulder. And I laughed. I asked her, when will you go out with me? And she said, when you are famous. Do you see now? If I'm famous, she will love me. Oh. I had to give this guy credit. I mean, he had a goal of marrying Miss Cab, and no matter how many times she told him no, he never quit. I didn't even have the heart to tell him I didn't think his being in the book could make someone love him. So how's the pepper going to get you into the world record book? The one in the book now is the hottest in the world. It, how do you say, paralyzes the brain. Only like forever, I asked. His eyes glittered with excitement. For maybe those hot artists, but my pepper, it lasts many more hours. Longer. One bite and she will freeze your legs, then your arms and your hands. He stood so stiff to illustrate it. Then the brain. So La Muerta is now the hottest. I break the record. Definitely respected the guy. Mr. Ortiz had taught me about how long ago the Spanish used to grow peppers in the monasteries and thought that they had magical properties. I knew if he grew weird varieties, but all this time, it was his top secret mission was this. What he said next was about to bring even a bigger surprise. But it isn't as important anymore. He grabbed my arm and shook it excitedly. I have spent years to make this, Zane. All the others' fails were good steps to this moment. He swept his arm up in front. All these plants, they grew only to give me this. It was their destiny. Don't you see, he said, still grinning like a kid on his birthday. I thought all this time I was trying for a world record, but it was for you. Destiny had a different plan. Yes. The thought grew slowly, and I finally caught on. Mr. Ortiz wanted to give me his pepper to stop our pooch. Could it work? It was the one that was going to paralyze a human. It was something else to try and paralyze a god. He tugged the pepper off the vine and carefully set it in a small burlap bag. For you, he said, placing it in the sack in my hand, to stop the stinking one. What about the Guinness Book in Miss Cab? No good to have the world record if the world is gone. He had a point. I didn't know what to say. What if it doesn't work? What if I can't do it? He clapped my shoulders. I always knew you were very special, Zane. I believe you can stop this monster. I felt really good that Mr. Ortiz had so much faith in me, but it also felt like a heavy burden because I didn't know if I deserved it. Destiny smiles on me, Zane. She was asleep for many years, and now she has come to my door so I could give you this chance. All I had to do was open it. I gripped the sack, but if your destiny has been something else, something dangerous, you would still have opened the door. Mr. Ortiz thought for a second and rubbed his chin. Then he looked at me. If you don't open the door, she will come in through the window. Before I left, I turned my face to Mr. Ortiz. He could not say anything about this to my mom. I will honor your wishes to keep her safe. He placed the weathered hands on my shoulders, tightening his hold. No te preocupes. I will protect both of them. Hondo wrote 6 versions of the note for mom before it finally approved one. Hey sis, me and Zane went fishing, wanted to get some fresh air and some bro time after the bank heist back a few days ago. I picked up the pen and added, we can talk about my dad. My hand hovered. I didn't know if I should write that when I would come home. I'll come home later, and finally wrote later, then signed my name and stuck it to the fridge, the note on the fridge, where she would have gone if she was talked to the cops. At least I felt better knowing that Mr. O would keep an eye on her and Ms. Cab. Hondo left to go get money from the ATM. When he came back, he tossed a stack of $100 bills into the kitchen table, where Brooks had a gateway map spread. That's a lot of money, Brooks said, leaning across the table for a better look. I've been saving for a speaker system upgrade for the truck, but I figured we'd need some coins for food and stuff. I can't let you waste all your cash, I said. On saving the world, Hondo laughed. What does it do to me if we're blown to smithereens? I can't argue that one, Brooks said. Hondo grabbed a sack off the counter and reached inside and pulled out the leather tool belt. Then one by one, we began stuffing tools into the stack of the loops. Hammer, screwdriver, small axe. What's all that for? Brooks asked. Some more stash, Hondo said. Got to be prepared. I highly doubt his tools were going to save us, but how do you prepare to save the world when you're a featherweight up against an immortal heavyweight? Hondo swung his arms around my neck. So what's the plan? To go find a few gods who helped us take this guy down? I thought the same until Brooks saw a flaw in the plan. Tell me, Brooks. Wouldn't do any good, she said. The gods are pretty much equal in strength and power. It would only start a war that would bring the same results, everyone dead. Hondo didn't flinch. Okay. Then we find a magical gateway to the underworld and pummel this guy ourselves. I wish it was that easy. I knew Al Pooch wouldn't be an Exalabob. He had 100 years of his plan to revenge, and I figured he was about to just go and waltz into hell and ask for the keys back. Besides, battling Al Pooch ourselves would only end in a disaster. He'd head dropped us in less than a second. I had something different in mind, a backup plan, because I couldn't balance the whole world's survival on a single chili pepper. Despite my promise to Mr. O to keep it a secret, I'd already shown the pepper to Brooks and Hondo. We had no choice, too much at stake. Then we agreed. We definitely leaned to plan B. Have you ever heard of the Hero Twins? I asked Brooke. Her face went blank. I waved my hands in front of her. Earth to Brooks. What? Have you ever heard the story of the Hero Twins? She rolled her eyes. Junapitya and Exalamake? Yeah, whatever you said. What about them? They defeated the gods of the underworld, and they never let anyone forget it either, she argued. Big braggers, if you want to ask me. You actually know them? Brooks looked back at the map and twisted her mouth like she was trying to keep it closed. Do you know them, don't you? Might have met the dirtbags once or twice. A vein in my forehead throbbed. And you didn't think you should tell me? Why would I ever want to tell you about those losers? What do they have to do with anything? Hondo rubbed the back of his neck. His eyes bulged out like a storm might be brewing. I threw my hands up. I don't know. Maybe the fact that they were only mortals to have defeated Al Pooch. They have his playbook, right? I knew Brooks was too smart to have overlooked this connection. Her nostrils flailed. Those guys aren't nothing but trouble. And they're not exactly mortals, she added. Their mom was the daughter of some lord in the underworld, and their dad was a god from Junipero. Except he wasn't actually alive. I mean, when the mom met him, he was just a head, a skull. Hondo grimaced. She fell for a skull? Was she desperate or something? I don't even know what, I said. Brooks shrugged. Not worth knowing. The twins might be our only shot, I said. Hondo popped open the bag of Cheetos and stuffed a few in his mouth. I get where you're going with this. Maybe they'll share their war strategy with you. Exactly. Okay, first of all, Brooks said with a huff. They're arrogant, selfish, obnoxious, weaselly. She crossed her arms. They never told anyone the real truth about how they defeated Puke. Most of them have let the story build into some stupid legend status so you can keep their magical powers that the gods gave them for being such, she made air quotes, heroes. I mean, who cares who took down the stupid 7 Makwa? As if it was a heart or something. 7, who, Hondo said? Some guy who wanted to be the supreme god, Brooks offered, was there ever a time you arrogant gods weren't trying to knock out each other to gain more power? Okay, I said. So aside from being jerks, do you know where to find them? Brooks reached into the bag of Cheerios, grabbed a handful, tossed them into her mouth. Brooks! She groaned. Venice. Italy? Hondo rubbed his chin. We don't have enough cash for that kind of mileage. Brooks shook her head and suddenly sour. Venice Beach, California. That was in Los Angeles. Los Angeles. It started to make sense. Crap. Brooke wiped some orange powder off her mouth. Crap what? I told her what Alpooch said. They can't hide from me long. I bet Alpooch is there for the twins. Why would he care about them? Brooke asked. Hondo, why would Puke want the twins? I said, knowing he'd follow my magic logic. Hondo smashed his fist in the palm of a slow grin over his face. Revenge, of course. I mean, he just didn't pick that city out of the blue, right? I said, maybe if we can get there in time to warn them he's coming, they'll owe me a favor. A favor for a favor, Zane, Brooks said. They won't help you. They don't care about anything but themselves. Even if we made the trip, they wouldn't agree to see you. Why not? You have to earn their attention. A Maya thing. What am I supposed to mean? I should say that a Maya supernatural thing. Those with powers want to keep it, which means they only hang with those who have the gold. They don't wallow with a common human. No offense, Hondo. Hondo shrugged. But I'm not common, I said. My dad's a Maya god, right, Brookside? But we can't tell them that. Not now. But now we can. She leaned across the table. Please forget it. Her voice quivered. It's too risky. Risky than facing the demon runners? The god of dead? I looked at Hondo to Brooks. Does anyone have a better idea? You're right. Zane, Hondo said. Can't rush into a match without a game plan. He rubbed his chin, turning to Brooks. Risky how, Brooks? She looked glum, like she was about to ask her to do what was the worst thing than jumping into a fire pit. They're tricksters, she said. They wait years for people to see them, ask for favors. Like one guy needed some protection for his family. They lived in a really bad neighborhood. You know what those idiots told him? Brooks squalled. They laughed at him and told him to learn how to fight. What are they, like mafia or something? Hondo asked. Not in the mafia, Brooks said. They're like the kings of it. I shook my head. Hang on. The Hero Twins, the ones who defeated the underworld. They run crime organizations now. Not crime, Brooks said. Organized magic. Oh, Hondo said, smashing now the empty Cheetos bags. That sounds better. I leaned closer to Brooke as if I didn't want to go in and get it. Brooks twisted her hair around her pinky. You'll need to bring them a gift. Why? Hondo asked. It's like some kind of honoring of the king type thing. Not a king thing, a birthday thing. Tomorrow's their birthday, Brooks said. Then she mumbled, trust me, they don't even deserve a birthday. Trust? Miss Cab said not to trust Brooks. I'd ignored that advice, but I didn't want it to be true. But I suspect Brooke wasn't telling me anything. She'd been very weirdly quiet at Miss Cab's, and I could tell the wheels were turning in her mind. But what choice did I have? Brooks knew important stuff. I didn't. And we didn't have time to argue. I had to trust her. I rolled up the map and headed for the door. Brooks caught me, grabbed my arm, and twisted me around. Zane, you are 100% sure you want to do this. No one ever leaves without owing them something. She released her hand quickly, probably thinking I would jump into her mind. I already owe a debt to Alpooch. After tonight, we only have 2 moons to change that. I said more boldly than I felt. We have to try. She twisted her mouth to the side and let out a long breath. You risked your life for me. She stopped herself before spilling any more to Hondo. Okay, I'll take you there. It's the least I can do. You don't have to, I said, feeling suddenly guilty. I mean, if you want to come, but if you'll never get there without me. Let's just hope we don't run into any more demons. I know you're scared. I'm not scared, Zane. I've lost all my demon tormenting flashlights, and I'm not about to go back to that cave to retrieve them. She tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. Now, about this map. We are using a magical gateway. Hondo's eyes shot up. Brooke said, there aren't any close enough. How do you know? I asked, did you? You learned how to read the map? No, I mean, I told you I could probably figure it out. And she sighed and unfolded the map. See how it's a panels, she said. Well, When the fold is the right way, the hieroglyphics connects and their meanings change. So it's fluctuating. But if you follow the blue line, Hondo I lean closer to try and follow, it travels to California, right? She said. There aren't any flashing gateways between here and there. The closest one is in Texas, which would lead us to the North Pole. And she folded the panels a different way, giving us a new view. Once there, we have to go to Ireland. What? No direct flights, Hondo said. What a ripoff. Okay. I said, my head is spinning. I get it. We have to drive. Brooks nodded. We need to be there by 9 p.m. if you want to see the twins, or else you have to wait another day. We don't have time for that. So what's so special about 9? The doors close after that. How do you know? Brooke rolls her eyes. Their birthday is like a universal event and the invitations went out. I sort of got one. Hondo nodded his head slowly and grinned. So you're an it girl. Nice. Brooke shrugged Hondo's arm. Call me again, and I'll drop you in front of the top of a mountain. Brooks, an it girl? I wasn't sure what that was, but I guess it meant she was part of the cool crowd. But it made no sense. I mean, cool girls don't usually wear beat up combat boots, basic black hoodies, and zero makeup. And they sure didn't want to talk to me. Chapter 18. We piled into Hondo's black F-150 truck. The thing was a beast on huge wheels. Hondo spent much of his free time waxing her to shine and most of his money tricking her out. We were on the open highway in a few minutes. I'd let the window down and leaned out. The cool air night whipped through my hair. I'd put Miss Cav's pinkish eyeball, it looked like the one that belonged to the giant rat, in a plastic bag and carefully stashed it in my backpack on account of not wanting to pop it like a grape in my pocket. It looks like we should take I-10 straight through Tucson and Phoenix, Brooke said, studying the road map Hondo had picked up. Hondo grinned and turned on some really bad punk rock that rattled my bones. I had never been out of New Mexico, so crossing the state line to Arizona felt like a get out of jail card free. The whole landscape changed from familiar yucca to mesquite to a funny shaped cactus with arms. Hondo called them saguaros. In the dark, the tall cactus looked like they were living things that could uproot themselves and chase after us. Okay, so I was paranoid. But who wouldn't be after the day I had, fighting off demon runners, swimming through the darkness, cutting deals with the Lord of the Dead, talking to an angry chicken, and saving a life? That's even more than you gods typically do in a few hours. It was already close to midnight and the exhaustion was settling in. My whole body felt like it had been battered with stones. Hondo must have seen it coming. Go on, he said. Take a snooze. I can stay awake, I said. Talk to you. Nah, I'm used to being up all night. Go on, he insisted. Catch some Z's. I looked over my shoulder at Brooks in the back of the cab. She was slumped against the door, fast asleep. Even though I'm terrified of becoming a soldier of death, I thought I would still make the same deal to save her. A few minutes later, I closed my eyes and fell into the foggy dream world. I was in some kind of night jungle. The trees were made of aluminum and had sharp claw-like branches. The distant howl drew my attention to a narrow, dark path. Strange whispers bounced off the tree. A single bar of moonlight crept through the silvery branches. I saw her standing on the path right in front of me. I took off running. My legs were long and lean. It was incredible, even better than that, flying in a dream. I could run like this forever. As soon as I reached her, I fell to my knees and wrapped my arms around the old goof, but she turned to a mist and disappeared. The tree shimmered with a strange image. There were dozens of her reflections in the tiny trees. I felt like the house of mirrors were trying to find the real Rosie. I went over to get one closer. The metal was cold and the dog in the dark reflection of the black. I glanced next to the tree. This Rosie had her yellow eyes. The one next to the long fur, I realized that they were all bad imitations of my dog. A wicked gust of wind blasted through the winds and the metal branches scraped against each other, making a screeching sound that sent chills down the back of my legs. The moon fell and shifted colors. From the bone to white and blood red, rain plummeted the earth instantly, a flogging Flogging the jungle, I was just finding myself riding a giant wave towards a million bolts, violently striking the earth to set fire to the desert of the lands. Scrape. A terrible burning started in my hands, and a yellow and red sparks jumped from my fingertips. Just as I was about to be thrown into the flames, I heard Miss Cab's voice. You left me as a chicken. I woke up and started yelling, fire! Hondo jumped out of his seat, and the truck swerved. What the heck, Zane? You're scared the bejesus out of me. Brooks groaned sleepily. A way to ruin a perfect good dream. Sorry, guys, I rubbed my eyes to shake off the vision I had. Felt so real. I swear I could feel the heat of the fire at my fingertips, as if Miss Cab was yelling at me about being a chicken. I was going to toss the eyeball into the highway where we were, but I looked at the darkness of the whizzing sky. The desert, Hondo said with a chuckle. Brooks glanced around the window. She opened the road atlas, studied it, and looked out again. Hondo? Yep. I think you missed the fork to I-10. Hondo craned his neck to see the rearview mirror. You said to head straight on I-10. Hondo threw his head back and groaned. I'll turn around. We've gone too far, Brooks said. We'll have to head north of San Diego. Hondo hit the gas. I'm on it, Captain. Maybe it's a sign we shouldn't go, Brooks said, twisting her mouth. I turned to her face. You really hate these guys that much, Brooks. What did they ever do to you? Brooks glared out the back window. Just get me to Venice and I'll do the rest. The restlessness crept over me, and I once again wondered how much Brooks hadn't told me. What was her deal with these guys? I stashed my Maya books in my backpack just in case we needed them. I consulted it where there was nothing new about the twins in the page. Anything else I wanted to know about them, I was going to have to learn firsthand. It was 3 a.m, and we've got to Yuma, a tiny desert town bordered by a flat green farmland. We saw a sign for food, lodging, and gas. Hondo exited the highway and dropped me and Brooks at the Jack in the Box while he filled up the truck at the gas station next door. Inside, the cashier was sitting on the counter playing up his phone. When the door pinged, he didn't even look up. You open, I asked? Hang on there. A few more zombies to get to the next level. Gunshots, screams, and gurgling filled the empty place. Brooks tapped her foot. We want 3 jumbo jack meals with cheese, and you'll get a good tip if you can hurry on it. The guy looked up. Tip? He had acne on his cheek with the mousy brown hair fell on one eye. Coming right up, he said with a friendly smile. A few minutes later, the 3 of us were sitting in the window of the devouring the burgers and the fries. The zombie fighting cashier was in the next booth playing his game. This place gives me the creeps, I admitted before taking into this gigantium bite of cheeseburger. Man, it tasted so salty. I wish I had ordered 2. Hondo took a gulp of his Coke just in case the night of the night creepers. World of difference after midnight. I used to feel it, but now I like working at night. It's quiet and no one expects anything from you. Brooks ate all of her fries, but only part way, leaving a pile of unwanted ends on her trays. You don't like your fries? I asked, scooping up her leftovers. Never eat the ends I touch. How come? What's it to you? She asked, frowning as I scoured the tray for the remaining scraps. Sue me for being hungry. A rumbling noise in the parking lot caught my attention. The trio of Harley riders pulled up to the joint. They wore leather vests, knotted headscarves, and narrow black sunglasses that looked like alien eyes. I felt suddenly claustrophobic, like the walls were closing in and the ceiling was about to fall on our head. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. The violent screams coming from the guy's cell phone didn't help. The door flung open and the buff riders stepped into our space. You smell that? Brooks whispered. Never take your eyes off the tray. Smell what? Hondo said, his back to the door so he hadn't seen the dudes. When I pretended I could detect the vomit of the motor oil and the permeated of the greasy air, but it was too powerful to ignore. These riders weren't human and had the aftersmell of the underworld. My stomach plummeted. The cashier clicked off his video games, headed to the register to take the guy's orders, but they weren't interested in burgers and fries. The tallest of the bikers turned her head in our direction. His skinny, waxy look and pulled tight over his skull. Okay, so maybe they was for a late, smooth exit. How'd they find us? I asked. Brooke bent across the table and spoke in a low voice. Sure wish we had some thought into picking up those flashlights. I was busy saving your life. Brooks rolled her eyes. There's another exit over there. Let's get up slowly and carefully. What's with you two? Hondo glanced over the shoulders. You're scared of a few flabby Harley dudes? My neck was sweating. If I told you what they were, more like demons. Hondo stuffed a few fries in his mouth, tossed a napkin on the tray. I say, let's blow this joint. The cashier leaned over the counter and asked the demon bikers, are you guys going to order or what? No bathrooms if you don't pay for something. The three ignored him, keeping their glares on us. Brooks inched towards the edge of her seat. The bikers headed our way. Their belt and boot chains jingled as they stomped across the linoleum. Now, I hollered, and the three of us raced towards the opposite door out into the parking lot. But when we got to the truck, the trio was blocking our way. I did a double take, not believing my eyes. The bikers were us. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? I asked, frozen in my tracks. Dude, Hondo groaned. I'm really that short? Brooks grabbed my hand. Her thoughts came out full force. It's a shadow magic, a war tactic to confuse your opponents. No one wants to pummel their own face. What do we do? I don't know. I've only read about it. I've never actually seen it. There were always weaknesses. You have to know where to look. Hondo growled. We can take these guys. They're not guys, I mumbled. They're demons. Wicked. Hondo let out a whistle. Demons that ride motorcycles. It's an illusion, I told him. Then, to the monsters said, I had a deal with your boss. I've still got 2 nights. One of them looked at me, down the chin, freckled, messy hair, and pop knuckles. Not our boss, the master of the underworld. The fake Hondos and Brooks grunted in agreement. Okay, they were your average demon runners. They could string together the whole sentence. And what they didn't mean was master of the underworld. They meant Ayatab. I ventured. My head went into overdrive. They were working for her? She must want to rip me a new one for releasing her mortal enemy. Maybe I could reason with them, impress them enough that they wouldn't want to chop our heads off. I clenched my fists by my side. Tell your boss that Al Pooch is out to destroy the whole world. And we're going to stop them. We're not here for you boys, my mom lookalike said. Wait, what? What did you say? If you weren't here for me? You didn't know who I was? They snorted. Ayatab doesn't care what happens to this world. You little fool. The new world will always rise. And when there is a new world, there is always death. Hondo whispered in my ear. I'll take the one that looks like me. I can scratch out their eyes, Brooks offered, squeezing the hand tighter. My companions were right. There was no way past these dirtbags, only through them. No offense, I said to the demons, but I've got travel plans. Maybe you can swing by later. Give us the girl, my clone said. Girl, Brooks. I held up my hand in protest. You guys have it all wrong. It's me you want. Just when I thought the demons were going to lunge, the thick handful of coarse black hair grew out of 2 of the demons, mouths at an alarming rate. It cascaded down their bodies to the ground where it crawled toward us. We all screamed. I ducked, sipping between my look-alike monster legs, but not before the hair reached me, climbed my body, and wrapped itself around my neck, covering my mouth and pinning me to the asphalt. Clutching the band of hair to allow me to breathe and glance over to see Brooks in the same position, kicking and squirming while the hair nearly obscured her face. But what? Where was Hondo? Oh God, had the hair smothered him? Had the twins taken him down? No, I saw him ramming his head against him. With every ounce of strength I had, I tried to tear the hair away from my throat and out of my mouth, but it was impossible. It was too powerful. I was going to get choked to death by a demon hair. Then all of a sudden, Hondo swung a butcher knife around like a crazy man, hacking the black ropes of the hair that hissed and writhed, finally let me go. I scrambled to my feet and gave Hondo, these guys are nothing, smile. But before I could shout, look out, the twins whacked the knife out of his hand and headbutted him in the back. He collapsed to his knees. Brooks rolled around the asphalt, grabbed the knife, and stabbed her demon in the leg. It fell to the ground howling. My demon spun me into a headlock. It was too weird of a clutch. My look-alike skinny arm. Then it came to me. I knew the demon's weakness. With the left jab to his groin, I slipped out and circled behind him and swept the bad leg. I collapsed, jumped onto his back, locking him into chokehold. Brooks was busy running and ducking out of Hondo's monster's reach. Where the heck was Hondo? I jerked my neck back and, like my uncle had taught me, scrip. Oh no, his thin skin neck ripped open easily. Brooks was right. It was a pretty creepy to demolish someone who looked exactly like you, but he crumbled to his knees and I hopped off his back as he gripped open the neck. Black tar-like guck oozed out along with chunks of hair. Man, the smell actually stinged my nose hairs. He too turned into a ribbon of black mist and was gone. 1 down, 2 to go. I spotted Hondo's tool belt secured around his waist, charging the madman old styles, howling. Screwdriver hurtled through the air and wedged into Hondo's demon skull. Bullseye, Hondo hollered, pumping his fist. The Hondo demon stubble jerked the hammer free, right in front of himself. His face began to crack like dried mud, crumbling to the ground. Reveal. You guessed it, blue skin monster head. Veins throbbed and bulged. Slime oozed from all holes of his face, and his monster head heaved. We want the girl alive, said the demon, but we'll take her corpse if we have to. The air twisted and shimmered, the shivery smoke from the ground. Now, instead of 2 Brooks, there were 3. There were 6. 3 of them had the other 3 in a chokehold. Hondo crouched like a tiger ready to pounce. My eyes searched each Brooks fancifully, looking for any clue to tell me which was real. You'll have to take us down if you want her, I said. Zane, all the Brooks captives in unison. It's a trick. They were all replicas, their voices, their freckles, their desperate eyes. How was I supposed to know which one to save? It was like my dream where Rosie had appeared in all the trees. I remembered the flood, the fire. My fingertips tingled. I felt energy pulse beneath my skin and a power twisting from the vat of frying oil in the restaurant. Or was it coming from the deep earth? Whatever it was blazing hot. Something expanded inside of me, too big for my body to contain. I took a deep breath and it was gone. What do we do? Hondo grounded out. Immediately it hit me. Charge. Brooks. Charge into a hawk. Change into a hawk. It was the one thing to look like Brooks. It was another thing to be Brooks. Hondo, Demon said, no need for anyone else to die tonight. If you're not taking her, I growled. Seems we're all at it impasse, he said. I'll go with them, one Brooks said. Then the other one said, please, Zane, let me go. Why wasn't she changing? It was so easy if she could only shift into a hawk form, because I was sure of a Brooks thing. No clone could pull it off. Instead, take me, I said, Zane. Zane, no, one Brooks hollered, only to be echoed by the other one. Hondo Demon laughed. Why would Ayatab want you? His eyes roamed in my short leg. Because I'm the one who set Alpooch free. I inched closer to the heart racing, panic rising. But there wasn't a time to be afraid. And he was coming for his throne, I said. And too bad you guys are fighting us instead of protecting your precious underworld. I bet Alpooch has already beaten down the door and stormed the place. A long growl came from the demon. His face tense and he looked like he was about to lunge. We don't have a door, he hissed. Hondo clenched his fists at his sides. I'm going to enjoy knocking this guy's head off. But nowhere. The cashier appeared and threw a pot of hot filing oil on the demon's head. Run, I screamed at the kid. This isn't a game. The cashier actually smiled before he took off. Hondo, Demon, on the other hand, wasn't smiling. His clawed his melting face as chunks of his body fell into the ground, vanishing like a stream. That left 3 Brooks demons griping their twins at the throat. What's it going to be, Hondo said fearfully with a thrust of the demon gut. When one of the Brooks wriggles free, but her action was soon a mirror by her twins. The first Brook that locked eyes with me was Holy K. Zane, she gasped. You're going to stand there all night? It's her, I shouted to Hondo as we charged. The demons howled and vanished into thin black smoke. Brooks fell to her knees and grabbed her throat. Brooks, I hurried over. We better get out of here before anything else goes down, Hondo said, glancing around nervously. I helped Brooks to her feet. Why'd they give up so easily? I asked Hondo. It didn't make sense. They had a numerical advantage. Probably to bring an army back. I'm fine, Brooks said, shaking her head, but it was trembling. I'm fine, she repeated, then clawing into the back of the truck. I followed her, even though she said she wanted to be alone. We both lay there, not talking, just looking up in the dark sky. Hondo had his back on the highway. In a minute, the world hummed by the steady drone of the engine. I turned to Facebook. She kept staring blankly at the stars. I didn't know what to say, but I felt like I needed to say something to bring her back from wherever she was. I picked up a few nasty demon hands out of my mouth and cleared my throat. I think, maybe, I began. I felt some kind of connection to something that felt like heat or in the center of the earth. I can't be sure. I tried to find the right words. That is crazy. My mind went through all the gods in my book, and that was the god of the earth. It was probably just a coincidence, Brooke said sharply without looking at me, but I could feel it in my fingertips, like I was holding on to some rope, making the heat and energy. And I felt dangerous, like I had to control it or it was going to control me. You should have let them take me, she mumbled. But why? Why would they want you? Brooks kept her eyes fixed on the sky. I sat up. Are you listening? I heard you, Zane. You've got some godly power. Good for you. Hey, okay. You've ruined everything. She sat up and huddled in the cab. Whoa, what are you talking about? I saved you. Saved? She let out an exasperated laugh, like it was offending or something. I wanted to argue to let her know that she wasn't the only one freaked out or scared. She fidgeted with her strings and her hoodie. I too was afraid to say the wrong thing, so I bit back the words and waited for the gears in her mind to stop turning. It was like she was getting up the courage to tell me something that I might not want to hear. I knew if I pushed too hard, she'd never tell me anything. A few minutes later, whenever I changed into a hawk, I could feel the sky. It was like it was part of me. Even after I changed back, I could still feel it. She looked up at the stars. I tried. I wanted to claw out their eyeballs, but nothing worked. What do you mean? It's gone, Zane. I've got an empty feeling in the pit of my stomach. What's gone? I'm not a hawk anymore. That's it.